The sound of my own breathing was too loud in the hospital corridor. That's what I remember most. Not the sterile smell of antiseptic, not the fluorescent lights humming overhead, but the way my chest tightened when I saw her standing there, 6 years gone, like a ghost made flesh. Ilara. And beside her, 2 children, a boy and a girl. The boy had my eyes. I stood frozen, watching her crouch down to comfort the little girl who was crying softly into her shoulder. The boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, stood protectively close, his small hand gripping his mother's sleeve. My mother's sleeve. No, her sleeve. Ilara wasn't mine anymore. Hadn't been for 6 years. But those eyes, God, those eyes staring back at me from that child's face were undeniably, impossibly mine. The hospital chair coordinator was still talking beside me, something about donations and pediatric wings, but her words became white noise. All I could hear was the echo of a question I'd buried deep. What if I was wrong? Hi, viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Let me take you back. Back to when I thought I had everything figured out. Back to when Rowan Hale, that's me, was 32 years old and stupid enough to believe that success could fill the empty spaces in your life. Manhattan, penthouse on the Upper East Side, floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city like a painting I owned. Maserati in the garage, a real estate empire I'd built from absolutely nothing. My name on buildings, my face in magazines, my bank account with more zeros than I could count on both hands. I had everything, except I didn't. Because somewhere along the way, between closing million-dollar deals and shaking hands with people who only knew my net worth, I'd forgotten the one thing that actually mattered. The one person who'd been there before the money, before the power, before I became the kind of man who measured his worth in square footage and stock portfolios. Ilara Quinn. I met her in a coffee shop in Brooklyn back when I was 24 and driving a beat-up Honda Civic that made concerning sounds every time I turned left. She'd been carrying an absurd number of art supplies, canvas, paints, brushes, and she'd crashed right into me. Literally, hot coffee everywhere. My shirt ruined. Her mortified expression. And then she laughed. Not a polite, embarrassed laugh. A real one. The kind that makes you forget you're wearing scalding liquid. I'm so sorry, she'd said, dabbing at my chest with napkins that were doing absolutely nothing. I promise I'm not usually this much of a disaster. Usually, eating up. So this is your off day? Her eyes, warm brown with flecks of gold, had met mine, and something shifted. Something I didn't have words for back then. Something I definitely didn't appreciate until it was too late. We were inseparable after that. She painted in a tiny studio apartment in Bushwick. I worked 80-hour weeks, trying to break into real estate development. We ate ramen more nights than not. We dreamed big, stupid dreams on our fire escape, watching the sun come up over the city we were going to conquer together. Together. That was the word that mattered. That was the word I forgot. 5 years later, we got married. Small ceremony, just close friends. She wore a simple dress she'd found at a vintage shop in the village. I wore the only suit I owned. We couldn't afford a honeymoon, so we spent 3 days in a bed and breakfast in the Catskills, hiking during the day and making love at night while rain drummed against the windows. I remember thinking, this is it. This is everything. And it was. Until it wasn't. Success came fast after that. Too fast, maybe. One deal led to another. One building led to 5. 5 led to 20. Money poured in. We moved from Brooklyn to Manhattan. From a one-bedroom to a penthouse. From struggling to thriving. But somewhere in that transformation, I changed. And I didn't even notice. The conversations got shorter. The touches less frequent. I come home late, mind still spinning with contracts and negotiations, and find Ilara painting in the corner of our massive living room that suddenly felt too big, too cold, too much like a museum and not enough like a home. Look at this, she'd say, showing me her latest piece, a sunrise over the city, warm oranges and pinks bleeding into deep blues. It reminded me of us, when we used to watch the sun come up. It's nice, I'd say, barely glancing at it. Listen, I've got calls to make. The Singapore deal is heating up. Nice. I called her art nice. Like it was wallpaper. like it was background noise to my important life. She'd just nod and turn back to her canvas, and I'd miss the way her shoulders sagged, the way something dimmed in her eyes. I missed a lot of things. 6 months before the divorce, she stopped showing me her paintings altogether. 3 months before, she stopped waiting up for me. 1 month before, she stopped saying, "I love you" first. And I was too blind, too arrogant, too wrapped up in my own empire to see the woman I loved disappearing right in front of me. The night it ended, I was working on a $40 million deal, the biggest of my career. I'd been at the office for 16 hours straight, riding the high of negotiation, feeling like a god. I came home at midnight to find Alara sitting in the dark, staring out at the city lights. "We need to talk," she said. Those 4 words, the ones everyone fears. "Can it wait?" I'd asked, loosening my tie. "I'm exhausted, and tomorrow's going to be insane." She turned to look at me then, and even in the darkness, I could see something had broken. "It's always going to be insane, Rowan. That's a problem." We talked for 3 hours that night. Or rather, she talked, and I defended. She cried, and I rationalized. She asked for more, and I promised things I had no intention of actually changing. "You're not here anymore," she whispered. "Even when you're standing right in front of me, you're not here." "That's not fair," I'd shot back. "Everything I do for us." "No." Her voice was so quiet, so sad. "You do it for you, and that's okay. But I can't keep being the thing you remember to love when you have time." 2 weeks later, I handed her divorce papers. Quick, clean, efficient. Just like every other deal I'd ever closed. She'd signed them without a fight. No yelling, no drama, just her elegant signature on the dotted line, and then she'd looked up at me with those eyes that used to make me feel like I could do anything. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Rowan." And then she'd left. Just like that. Packed her things while I was at the office, disappeared into the city like smoke. I told myself it was for the best, that we'd grown apart, that sometimes love isn't enough. I told myself a lot of lies. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that when Alara walked out of our penthouse that day, she was carrying more than just her suitcases. She was carrying our children. Have you ever lost something you didn't realize was everything? Have you ever been so focused on winning that you didn't notice you were losing the only game that mattered? Drop your thoughts below, because trust me, this story is just getting started, and what comes next will change everything you think you know about second chances. The penthouse echoed. That's what nobody tells you about success. When you finally get everything you thought you wanted, when the space is big enough and expensive enough and impressive enough, it just echoes. Every footstep, every breath, every moment of silence reminding you that you're alone. I stood at those floor-to-ceiling windows the morning after Alara left, coffee in hand, looking out at a city I supposedly owned pieces of. The sunrise was happening, oranges and pinks bleeding into blues, and all I could think about was that painting she tried to show me, the one I'd called nice. My phone buzzed. Another congratulations text about the Singapore deal. Another invitation to some gala. Another reminder that Rowan Hale was at the top of his game. I deleted them all. The first week without her, I worked. 90-hour weeks. Closed 3 deals. Made another $8 million. Bought a watch that cost more than our first apartment. Told myself I was fine. The second week, I started noticing things. Her coffee mug was gone from the cabinet. The smell of her lavender shampoo had faded from the bathroom. The corner where she used to paint was just empty space now, and I'd catch myself looking at it like something was supposed to be there. The third week, I hired an interior designer to redecorate. Modern, minimalist, expensive. Erase every trace. Start fresh. But you can't redesign memories. I wake up at 3 in the morning reaching for someone who wasn't there. I'd come home and start to call out her name before remembering. I'd see couples laughing in coffee shops and feel something twist in my chest that I refuse to name. Pride is a funny thing. It keeps you from admitting you're wrong, even when you're drowning. Months passed, then a year. I dated other women, models, executives, socialites who looked perfect on my arm at charity events. But they weren't her. They didn't laugh at my bad jokes the way she did. They didn't look at me like I was more than my bank account. They didn't make me feel like Rowan, just Rowan, the guy who used to dream on fire escapes. I tried to find Alara once, about 8 months after the divorce. Hired a private investigator, gave him everything I had. He came back 2 weeks later with nothing. It's like she vanished, he'd said. No credit cards, no lease agreements, no social media. Either she doesn't want to be found, or she's really good at disappearing. I paid him and told myself it was for the best, that she moved on, that I should too. But late at night, when the penthouse was too quiet and the city lights felt like they were mocking me, I'd wonder, where did she go? Was she happy? Did she ever think about me? Did she ever forgive me? The business kept growing. I bought buildings in Miami, developments in Los Angeles, properties in London. My face showed up in Forbes. People wanted to know my secrets. How did you do it? How did you build an empire from nothing? I'd smile and talk about vision, about risk-taking, about never settling for less than everything. I never mentioned that everything felt like nothing when you had no one to share it with. Year 2 came and went. I stopped looking for her, stopped wondering, built walls around the parts of me that still ached, became the kind of man who could sit through a 7-hour board meeting without feeling anything at all. Became exactly the kind of man Alara said I was becoming. My assistant scheduled my life down to the minute. Meetings, calls, site visits, galas, fundraisers. I shook 1,000 hands, made 100 speeches, donated to causes I barely understood because my PR team said it was good for my image. That's how I ended up at the hospital charity event. You need to do more public-facing philanthropy, my publicist had insisted. Hospitals, children's causes. It humanizes you. Humanizes. Like I was some kind of robot that needed a software update. But I went. Because that's what you do when you've built your entire identity around being successful. You show up. You smile. You write the check. I didn't expect to feel anything. I certainly didn't expect to see her. The children's wing was painted in soft colors, yellows and blues and greens. Kids' drawings covered the walls. There was laughter somewhere down the hall, the sound of small feet running. It smelled like hope, if hope had a smell. Something warm and alive and completely foreign to my world of glass and steel. The coordinator was walking me through, explaining funding needs, talking about new equipment and expanded programs. I was nodding, half listening, already planning my exit strategy. And then I saw her. Tom didn't stop. That's movie nonsense. But it slowed, stretched, became thick like honey. Alara was crouched down, comforting a little girl who was crying. Her hair was longer than I remembered, pulled back in a loose braid. She wore jeans and a simple sweater. No makeup that I could see. She looked tired. She looked beautiful. She looked like everything I'd lost and didn't know how to find again. But it was the children that made my heart stop beating. The girl she was comforting, maybe 5 years old, had Alara's eyes and smile. But the boy standing next to them, protective and serious, staring right at me with a face I saw in the mirror every morning. That boy had my eyes, my jawline, my expression when I was concentrating. The coordinator was still talking. Mrs. Quinn has been wonderful. Her son Aiden had an accident at the beach a few weeks ago. Nothing serious, but she's been so grateful for the care that she's been volunteering. Excuse me, I heard myself say. My feet were moving before my brain caught up. Across the corridor, toward the woman I divorced 6 years ago, toward children who couldn't possibly be what I thought they were. Alara looked up. Our eyes met, and in that moment I saw it all. The truth written in her face. The secret she'd carried. The reason she'd disappeared so completely. She stood slowly, instinctively moving between me and the children. Rowan, my name from her lips after 6 years of silence. It sounded like an accusation and a prayer all at once. The boy, Aiden, tilted his head, studying me with an intelligence that was unsettling. Mommy, who's that? Mommy. The word hit me like a truck. Have you ever had everything you thought you knew shatter in a single moment? Ever realize that while you were building your empire, someone else was building a family? Your family. Without you? What would you do if you discovered you had children you never knew existed? Because standing there in that hospital corridor, I realized that the $40 million deal, the penthouse, the empire, all of it meant absolutely nothing compared to what I was looking at right now. They're mine. I didn't ask. I stated. Because asking would have meant there was doubt, and there wasn't. Not really. Not with those eyes staring at me, carbon copies of my own reflection. Alera's jaw tightened. She glanced at the children, then back at me. This isn't the place, Rowan. How old are they? She didn't answer, just picked up the little girl, Lyra, I'd learn later, and took Aiden's hand. Alera. My voice cracked on her name. How old? 5.5. Quiet. Resigned. Like she'd been waiting for this moment and dreading it in equal measure. 5.5 years. I did the math in my head, counting backward. 6 years since the divorce. Which meant you were pregnant. The words came out hollow. When you signed the papers. When you left. You were pregnant, and you didn't tell me. Mommy. Aiden's voice was small, worried. Is something wrong? Alera's expression shifted instantly, became soft and warm as she looked down at him. Nothing's wrong, sweetheart. This is just someone Mommy used to know. Why don't you and Lyra go see if Miss Jennifer has those coloring books she promised? She was protecting them. From me. From this moment. From whatever storm was about to break. The children left, Aiden casting one more suspicious glance over his shoulder. Smart kid. He knew something was off. We stood in that hallway, 6 years of silence between us. I didn't know whether to scream or fall to my knees. Why? It was the only word I could manage. Alera crossed her arms, and I recognized the gesture, her armor, her way of holding herself together. You really have to ask? Yes, I have to ask. Those are my children, Alera. My children. And you've kept them from me for 5.5 years. Something flashed in her eyes. Anger, maybe. Or pain. Probably both. Your children, she repeated. Funny how that works. They became your children the moment you found out about them. But where were you when I was throwing up every morning? Where were you when I gave birth alone in a hospital 300 miles away? Where were you when Aiden cried for 3 months straight and I thought I was losing my mind? Each question was a blade, precise and sharp. You didn't give me a choice, I shot back. You made your choice, Rowan. You chose your $40 million deal over our marriage. You chose late nights at the office over coming home. You chose everything else over me. So when I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you handed me those divorce papers, I made a choice too. I chose to protect them from a father who was too busy building an empire to notice his wife was falling apart. The truth of it hit harder than any business failure ever had. I would have come back, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure they were true. No, she shook her head. You would have felt obligated. You would have written checks and set up trust funds and hired nannies. You would have scheduled them into your calendar between meetings. And they would have grown up watching their father treat them like another acquisition, like something to be managed. That's not fair. Fair. Her laugh was bitter. You want to talk about fair? I was terrified. Rowan, 26 years old, pregnant with twins, alone in a city where every corner reminded me of us. Of what we were. Of what you became. Twins. The word settled in my chest like a stone. So I left, she continued. Found a small town on the coast. Rented a house I could barely afford. Worked 3 jobs while pregnant because I refused to touch the divorce settlement. And when they were born, her voice caught. When they were born, I held them both and made a promise that they would never feel like they weren't enough. That they would never watch someone choose money over love. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, to explain that it was more complicated than she was making it sound. But was it? I'm not that man anymore, I heard myself say. Aren't you? She looked at me, really looked, and I felt exposed. You're wearing a suit that probably costs more than my rent. You arrived in what, a Bentley? A Tesla? You smell like expensive cologne and success. Tell me, Rowan, what's changed besides the number in your bank account? Everything, I wanted to say. Nothing, I realized. A nurse walked by, gave us a curious look. We were causing a scene. This wasn't the place for this conversation. I want to know them, I said quietly. I want to be in their lives. Alera's expression softened, but not in a good way. It was pity. She pitied me. They don't know you exist, she said. As far as they're concerned, it's always been just the 3 of us. I won't let you walk into their lives, play father for a few months until you get bored or busy, and then disappear. I won't let you break their hearts the way you broke mine. I never meant. I know, and that was somehow worse than anger. You never meant to. That was always the problem. You didn't mean to ignore me. You didn't mean to let us fall apart. You didn't mean to become someone I didn't recognize. But intention doesn't erase impact. Aiden appeared at the end of the hallway, watching us. Even from a distance, I could see the worry in his face. My son. My son was worried about his mother, and I was the cause. I need to go, Alara said. They've been through enough today. When can I see you again? To talk. Really talk. She hesitated. For a moment, I thought she'd say never. That she'd disappear again, take them somewhere I'd never find them. I live in Whitmore Bay, she said finally. Small town, 3 hours north. I teach our classes at the community center. We're there most Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. It wasn't an invitation. It was information. What I did with it was up to me. She started to walk away, then paused. Look back. They ask about their fathers sometimes, she said. Aiden especially. He sees other kids with dads at the playground and wonders. I've always told them that their father was a good man who made hard choices. Don't make me a liar, Rowan. Then she was gone, collecting the children and disappearing around a corner, leaving me standing alone in a hospital hallway with the wreckage of 6 years between us. I pulled out my phone, canceled my afternoon meetings, my evening plans, the next day's breakfast with investors. My assistant called back immediately. Mr. Hale, is everything all right? These meetings are critical. Reschedule everything, I said. Everything? Sir, the Holbrook deal. I don't care about the Holbrook deal. Silence on the other end. I never said those words before. Never prioritized anything over business. Reschedule it all, I repeated. I have something more important to take care of. I hung up before she could respond. 3 hours north. Whitmore Bay. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. I had 2 days to figure out how to be the man Alara thought I could be. The man I should have been all along. The father my children, God, my children, deserved. What would you sacrifice to fix the biggest mistake of your life? Would you walk away from everything you built to reclaim what you lost? Because I was about to find out if redemption was something you could earn, or if some mistakes leave scars too deep to ever fully heal. Whitmore Bay looked like a postcard someone forgot to send. I pulled up on a Tuesday afternoon in my Mercedes, immediately too much car for this town, and parked along a street where the buildings were worn and weathered in a way that felt earned, not neglected. Salt air hit my face when I stepped out. Seagulls called overhead. A kid rode by on a bicycle that had seen better decades. This was where Alara chose to raise our children. No high-rises, no corner offices, just ocean and sky and a pace of life I'd forgotten existed. The community center was a renovated church, white paint peeling, stained glass windows catching the afternoon light. I sat in the car for 20 minutes, watching people come and go. An older woman with grocery bags, a teenager with a skateboard, a young mother pushing a stroller. Normal people, living normal lives, not trying to conquer anything, just existing. I almost drove away 3 times. Finally, I got out, walked inside. The smell hit me first, paint and clay and something baking, probably in a kitchen somewhere. Children's artwork covered every available wall. A bulletin board advertised yoga classes, a book club, a community dinner. Help you. A woman at the front desk looked up, friendly but curious. I was wearing a suit in a place where everyone else wore jeans and hoodies. I'm looking for Alara Quinn's art class. Down the hall, last door on the right. They're just finishing up. I walked slowly, giving myself time to prepare, to figure out what I'd even say. But there's no preparing for seeing your children for the second time in your life, knowing they have no idea who you are. The door was open. I stood in the doorway, watching. Alara was teaching about 8 kids, ages ranging from maybe 4 to 10. She wore paint-splattered jeans and an old sweatshirt, her hair tied back with what looked like a paintbrush. She was laughing at something one of the kids said, helping a little boy mix colors on a palette. And there, at a table near the window, were Aiden and Lyra. Aiden was focused, painting what looked like a beach scene with careful, deliberate strokes. Lyra was more chaotic, hands covered in paint, creating something abstract and joyful. I missed 5.5 years of this. 5.5 years of watching them discover colors and shapes and the way light moves across water. 5.5 years of laughter and growth and becoming. Alara noticed me first. Her smile faded. She said something to the kids, then walked over. You came, she said quietly. You said Tuesday afternoons. We stood there, awkward. Two people who'd once known everything about each other, now strangers navigating new terrain. What do you want, Rowan? I want to know them. I stopped. Started over. I don't know what I want, but I know what I lost, and I know I can't get those 5 years back. But maybe I can be here for the next 5, and the 5 after that. She studied my face, looking for something. Sincerity, maybe, or the man she'd married before he'd forgotten what mattered. They're happy, she said. We don't have much. I teach art classes and do commission work. We live in a rental house 3 blocks from a beach. We eat spaghetti more nights than I'd like to admit. But they're happy, Rowan. They're safe and loved and happy. I won't let you disrupt that. I don't want to disrupt anything. I just want to be part of it. How? You live in Manhattan. You run an empire. You can't just show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays and play father. Kids need consistency. They need someone who's actually there. Then I'll be there. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You'll be there, right? Until the next big deal. Until your phone rings and someone needs you for something more important. Nothing is more important than this. Prove it. The challenge hung between us. Prove it. Words I'd heard before in business negotiations, but never like this. Never with everything that mattered on the line. Mommy, Lyra's voice cut through. Can Mr. Whiskers be purple? Tigers can be purple, right? Alara's expression shifted instantly, became warm and patient. In your painting, Mr. Whiskers can be any color you want. She glanced back at me. Wait here. She returned to her class, moving between tables, praising efforts, offering gentle guidance. She was good at this. Natural. The kids responded to her with easy affection. Aiden looked up at one point, saw me standing in the doorway. Our eyes met. He tilted his head, that same analytical expression I'd seen at the hospital. Then he went back to his painting, but I caught him glancing over a few more times. He knew something. Maybe not what, but something. The class ended. Parents arrived to pick up kids. Alara helped clean up, and I just stood there, useless, not sure if I should help or stay out of the way. Finally, it was just us. And them. Aiden, Lyra, Alara said, "Come here for a minute." They approached, Lyra bouncing, Aiden cautious. Up close, I could see more. Lyra had Alara's nose. Aiden had my stubborn chin. They were both beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. This is Rowan, Alara said carefully. He's an old friend. He's going to be visiting sometimes. What? Aiden asked. Direct. No filter. Good question, kid. Because your mom and I used to be close, I said. And I'd like to get to know you both. If that's okay. Lyra smiled immediately. Do you like tigers? I painted a purple tiger. Want to see? I'd love to see it. She grabbed my hand. No hesitation, complete trust, and dragged me to her table. Her painting was exactly what you'd expect from a 5-year-old. Enthusiastic, chaotic, and somehow perfect. It's incredible, I said and meant it. Mommy says art is about feelings, not perfect lines. Do you do art? No, I'm not very good at creative things. That's sad. Simple, honest assessment. Everyone should make art. It makes your heart happy. Ada hung back, watching, evaluating. I crouched down to his level. What are you painting? He hesitated, then turned his canvas toward me. A beach at sunset. The colors were surprisingly sophisticated for a 5-year-old. Purples and oranges, the way the sky actually looked. Your mom taught you well, I said. She teaches me lots of things. Protective. This kid was protecting his mother from me. Smart kid. I bet she does. Are you really just a friend? The question caught me off guard. Kids see through lies better than any adult. It's complicated, I said. That's what grown-ups say when they don't want to tell the truth. Alara stepped in. Aiden, honey, why don't you help your sister clean up? We need to get going. He held my gaze for another moment, then nodded and took Lyra's hand. He's protective, I said to Alara. He's had to be. No accusation in her voice. Just fact. We stood there, watching the twins pack up art supplies, and I wondered what their life looked like. What their house looked like. What bedtime routines they had. What made them laugh. What scared them. All the things a father should know. I meant what I said. I told Alara. I want to be here. However that looks. Whatever you're comfortable with. She didn't answer right away. just watched her children, and I could see the calculation happening, the weighing of risk and possibility. Thursday, she finally said, 3 o'clock. We go to the beach after class. You can come. But Rowan, she looked at me. The moment I think you're going to hurt them, the moment you make them a priority beneath your business, I will cut you out completely. They don't need a part-time father who shows up when it's convenient. I understand. I don't think you do, but you will. They left, Lyra waving enthusiastically, Aiden still watching me with those careful eyes. I sat in my car for a long time after, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to process everything. I had children, twins, a boy and a girl who existed without me, who were happy without me, who might be better off without me. But I've been given a chance, a slim, fragile chance to be part of their lives. I pulled out my phone, called my assistant. I need you to clear my schedule, I said. Mr. Hale, we already rescheduled. I need you to clear it permanently. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Non-negotiable. Silence. Permanently? Sir, that's going to cause serious complications with. I don't care. Figure it out. That's what I pay you for. I hung up and stared at the ocean visible between buildings. Somewhere out there, Alara was taking my children home, reading them stories, maybe making them dinner, living a life I'd missed. But Thursday, I'd be there. Ever had a second chance, show up wearing paint-splattered jeans and carrying the weight of everything you lost? Ever realized that all the success in the world meant nothing compared to a 5-year-old's trust? I was about to learn if a man could really change or if some patterns run too deep to break. Thursday came too fast and not fast enough. I showed up at the beach at 3 wearing jeans and a t-shirt I'd bought specifically for this occasion. Felt ridiculous, like I was in costume, playing the role of normal dad when I didn't even know the lines. Alara was already there with the twins, setting up a blanket, unloading a cooler. She saw me approaching and something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, that I'd actually shown up. Did she think I wouldn't? Fair question. You came, she said. I said I would. Aiden was building an elaborate sandcastle, complete with moat and towers. Lyra was chasing seagulls, laughing when they flew away. Can I? I gestured vaguely toward them. Don't force it. Just be here. Let them get used to you. So I sat on the blanket, watching. Alara pulled out a sketchbook and started drawing, keeping one eye on the kids. The ocean rolled in steady rhythm. Families dotted the beach. A dog chased a frisbee. This was their life. Simple, present, real. Lyra eventually got bored with the seagulls and wandered over. You came back, she said, plopping down next to me. Your mom said I could. Do you like the beach? I do now. She studied me with complete seriousness. You're sad. Kids, they see everything. A little, I admitted. Why? Because I missed a lot of good things. Like watching you chase seagulls. She considered this. You can watch now. I'll do it again. And she did. Put on a whole performance, running and spinning and laughing, glancing back to make sure I was watching. I was. Aiden approached more carefully. Sat at a distance, working on his sandcastle. That's impressive, I said. It's going to have 4 towers. 1 for each season. Each season. Mom says everything changes but comes back. Like the seasons. So I make castles with 4 towers to remember. 5 years old and already philosophical. Your mom's pretty smart. The smartest. Loyal to the end, this kid. We sat in silence for a while. Then, without looking at me, why did you go away? The question hit like a physical blow. I didn't know you existed, I said quietly. If I had, Mom said you had important work. I thought I did. I was wrong. He glanced at me, assessing. Are you going to go away again? Not if I can help it. That's not a promise. You're right. It's not. I turned to face him fully. How about this? I promise to always tell you the truth. Even when it's hard. Even when I mess up. He went back to his sandcastle. Okay. It was the smallest victory, but it felt enormous. The afternoon passed. Alara thawed slightly. Let me help pack up. The twins showed me shells they collected. Lyra insisted I needed to see the secret cave that was really just a cluster of rocks. When it was time to leave, Lyra hugged me without prompting. Just threw her arms around my legs and squeezed. Ada hung back, but he waved. Progress. Same time next week? I asked Alara. She nodded. Same time. I started driving back to Manhattan that evening, but only made it an hour before pulling over a rest stop. Sat there with my hands shaking, realizing what I'd almost lost forever. What I was still losing every minute I spent 3 hours away. I called my realtor. I need a house, I said. Whitmore Bay. Oceanfront if possible. Move fast. Mr. Hale, there's not much inventory in Whitmore. Then make something available. I need to be there by next week. The following Tuesday, I brought coffee. Real coffee from the shop down the street from the community center. Alara raised an eyebrow, but accepted the cup. You're really doing this, she said. I'm really doing this.
Over the next month, I fell into a rhythm. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons became sacred. I learned that Lyra's favorite color changed daily. That Aiden had nightmares about the ocean, but refused to admit it. That Alara still painted late at night when she thought the kids were asleep. I learned that being a father wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about showing up, being present, listening to rambling stories about purple tigers and four-towered castles. I bought the house in Whitmore Bay. Didn't tell Alara at first. Just started staying over after beach days, claiming the drive back was too much. She noticed, of course. You're here a lot. Is that a problem? I don't know yet. Fair enough. The twins warmed up gradually. Lyra was easy. She loved everyone. Aiden took longer, testing me with questions and silences, seeing if I'd stick around when it got hard or boring. I stuck around. One evening, I was reading to them, a routine I'd somehow become part of. When Aiden asked, "What do we call you?" I looked at Alara. She looked back, equally unsure. "What do you want to call me?" I asked. "I don't know. You're not our dad. Mom said our dad is somewhere else." The words stung, but they were fair. "How about Rowan? Just Rowan for now." "Okay, Rowan." Later, after they were asleep, Alara and I sat on her porch. The ocean was loud in the darkness. "They're getting attached," she said. "Is that bad?" "It is if you leave." "I'm not leaving." "You say that now." "Alara." I turned to face her. "I bought a house here. I've reorganized my entire company to work remotely. I've turned down 3 major deals because they'd require too much travel. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I won't screw up. But I'm here. I am staying." She was quiet for a long time. "Why? Why now?" "Why them?" "Because I finally understand what I lost. Because seeing them, seeing you, made me realize that I spent 6 years building something that meant nothing. And I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking for us to go back to what we were. I'm just asking for a chance to be the father they deserve. Could you walk away from everything you built to start over? Could you choose presence over power, simplicity over success? Because somewhere between sandcastles and bedtime stories, I'd realized that redemption wasn't about grand gestures. It was about showing up day after day, even when nobody was watching. The call came at 2 in the morning. I was in my new house, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep like most nights since moving to Whitmore Bay. My phone lit up. Alara's name on the screen sent ice through my veins. "Rowan." Her voice was shaking. "It's Aiden. He fell. At the house. There's blood, and he won't stop crying, and I can't. I can't. I'm coming. Right now." "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's." "We're in the car. Please hurry." I was dressed and out the door in 30 seconds. Drove like a maniac through empty streets, praying to a God I hadn't talked to in years. "Let him be okay. Please let him be okay." The hospital waiting room was too bright, too cold, too much like the place where this all started. Alara was pacing, Lyra asleep in a chair, and when she saw me, something broke. She didn't fall into my arms. We weren't there yet, but she let me steady her. "What happened?" "He was having a nightmare. Got up too fast. Tripped over his toy box. Hit his head on the corner of his dresser." Her words tumbled out fast, frantic. "There was so much blood, Rowan. So much blood. Head wounds bleed a lot. It doesn't mean—" "You don't know that." She was right. I didn't. A doctor emerged. Young, tired, but smiling. "Mrs. Quinn? Aiden's going to be fine. 6 stitches. Mild concussion. We want to keep him overnight for observation, but he's already asking for you." The relief was physical. Alara actually swayed. "Can I see him?" she asked. "Of course. Room 304. She started toward the hallway, then stopped. "Look back at me. Come with me." It wasn't a question. It was an offering. A bridge. Aiden was sitting up in bed, a white bandage stark against his dark hair. He looked small in that hospital bed, vulnerable. When he saw us, his face crumpled. "Mom." "Rowan." "Rowan." Not just Rowan with distance, but my name like it meant something. Alara rushed to his side, kissing his forehead, checking him over with mother's hands that needed to confirm he was whole. "I'm okay," he said. "It was just scary." "You're so brave," she whispered. He looked at me over her shoulder. "You came." "Of course I came. Dad would have come too, if we had one." The word hung there. Dad. Conditional. Theoretical. I moved closer, sat on the edge of the bed. "Aiden, I need to tell you something. Something important." Alara's eyes went wide. She shook her head slightly. "Not now. Not like this. But when? When was the right time to tell a kid that the person he'd been getting to know for months was actually his father? That the abandonment he felt wasn't because his dad didn't exist, but because his dad had been too stupid to know what mattered? "What?" Aiden asked. I looked at Alara. She was terrified. This could go wrong in 1,000 ways. But I'd promised him truth, even when it was hard. "I'm your father," I said quietly. "Your mom and I were married. We got divorced before she knew she was pregnant with you and Lyra. She didn't tell me because I wasn't the kind of man who deserved to know. But I'm trying to be that man now. I'm trying to be the father you deserve." Silence, heavy and thick. Aiden looked at his mother. "Is that true?" She nodded, tears streaming. "It's true." "So you're my dad?" Back to me. "Yes." "And you left. I didn't know about you. But yes, I left your mother. I made terrible choices. I was selfish and blind, and I hurt the person I loved most." He processed this with that serious expression. 5 years old, dealing with information that would break most adults. "Do you still love her?" he asked. The question caught me off guard. "That's complicated, buddy. That's what you said before. About being friends. Adults always say complicated when they mean yes, but don't want to say it. Smart kid. Too smart." "Yes," I admitted. "I never stopped loving her." Alara's breath caught. "We hadn't talked about this. Any of this. Then why did you leave?" Aiden pressed. "Because I forgot that love isn't something you feel. It's something you do. Every day. In little ways. And I stopped doing those things. I got distracted by work and money and things that didn't matter. And now I'm trying to do better. To be better. For you and Lyra. And for your mom." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay. You can be my dad. But you have to promise not to leave again." "I promise." "That's not good enough. You have to really promise. The kind you can't break." I held out my pinky. "Pinky promise. The kind that's forever." He linked his pinky with mine, small fingers wrapping around mine. "Trust in its most fragile form." "Forever," he repeated. Alara was crying openly now. I reached for her hand without thinking, and she let me take it. We sat there in that hospital room, the three of us, while Lyra slept in the waiting room and the night slowly gave way to dawn. And something shifted, something fundamental. Later, after Aiden fell asleep and Alara went to check on Lyra, I stood at the window watching the sun rise. Oranges and pinks bleeding into blues. Alara's painting, the one I'd ignored, the one that had been trying to tell me something. She came back, stood beside me. "You shouldn't have told him like that," she said, but there was no anger in it. Just exhaustion. When should I have told him? I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out for 5 years. He deserved the truth. He deserved a father who was there from the beginning. You're right, and I can't give him that. But I can give him a father who shows up now. Who keeps showing up. She was quiet, watching the sunrise with me. I meant what I said. I told her. I never stopped loving you. I just forgot how to show it. Love isn't enough, Rowan. It wasn't then, and it isn't now. I know, but maybe it's a start. She didn't answer, just stood there beside me, close enough to touch, far enough to remind me of everything still broken between us. Have you ever gotten a second chance you didn't deserve? Ever held your child's trust in your hand and felt the weight of every mistake you'd ever made? Because standing in that hospital at dawn, I realized that becoming a father wasn't about biology. It was about choosing every single day to be the person your children believe you can be. 3 months later, I was learning that fatherhood was nothing like running a business. You couldn't schedule quality time. You couldn't delegate bedtime stories. You couldn't close a deal with a 6-year-old who decided that vegetables were poisoned food and nothing you said would change their mind. I was terrible at it, and I'd never been happier. Tuesday had become Rowan and Aiden Day. We'd started going to the hardware store together, building things. A birdhouse first, then a bookshelf for his room. Now we were working on a tree house in Alara's backyard. "Hand me that hammer," Aiden said, bossy as hell for a 6-year-old. Please hand me that hammer, Dad." Dad. He'd started calling me that about a month ago. Casual, natural, like it had always been that way. It destroyed me every single time. We worked in comfortable silence. He was good with his hands, focused and careful. I watched him measure twice before cutting, the way I taught him. "Mom's painting again," he said suddenly. "Yeah. The big ones. The ones she used to do before. Before me. Before I'd made her small." "That's good," I said. "She plays music while she paints now. She didn't used to. She's happier." I stopped hammering. "You think so?" He looked at me with those two knowing eyes. "She smiles more. She doesn't get that line." He pointed to the space between his eyebrows. "The worry line. It's going away. That's because of you and Lyra. You guys are good kids. It's because of you too," he said matter-of-factly. "She laughs when you're around. Different than with us. Grown-up laughs." I didn't know what to say to that. Thursdays belonged to Lyra. She decided we were going to explore the whole world, which meant walking to different parts of town and documenting it with a camera I bought her. "That tree is 67 years old," she announced, taking a picture. "How do you know?" I asked it. "The tree told you?" "Obviously. You just have to listen." 6 years old and already more in tune with the world than I'd ever been. We'd stop for ice cream. She'd get mint chip. I'd get whatever she told me to get, because apparently I couldn't be trusted to make my own dessert choices. "Dad." She started calling me that too. No hesitation, no formality. "Yes, sweetheart. Why don't you live with us?" The question I'd been dreading. "Well, your mom and I are still figuring things out. But you love her, and she loves you. That's what people do when they love each other. They live together. It's more complicated than. You always say that." She kicked her legs, sitting on the bench outside the ice cream shop. "I think grown-ups make things complicated on purpose." "Maybe you're right. I'm right. You should live with us. Then you could read us stories every night. And help Mom when she can't reach the high shelves. And not look so sad when you leave." "I look sad when I leave. Supevsat. Like Aiden when we had to give back the library books." Out of the mouths of babes. Alara and I had fallen into something. Not quite dating. Not quite just co-parenting. Something in between that had no name. We'd have coffee while the kids were at school. She'd show me her new paintings. I'd tell her about the company I was systematically dismantling, keeping only the pieces I could run remotely. We'd brush hands reaching for the same thing. Make eye contact across rooms. Dance around the tension building between us like teenagers afraid to make the first move. One night, after the kids were asleep, we sat on her porch. The ocean was calm. Stars everywhere. "I'm selling the penthouse," I said. "Rowan, I don't need it. Haven't been back in months. It's just sitting there empty. Seems wasteful. Where will you go when you need to be in the city?" "I don't need to be in the city. Everything I need is here." She turned to look at me. "Don't do this because you think it's what I want. I'm doing this because it's what I want." The penthouse was never home. It was just expensive square footage. "And this is home." She gestured to her modest rental house. "This is home," I confirmed. "Because you're here. They're here. Rowan, I'm not asking for anything, Alara. I'm not pushing. I'm just telling you that I'm all in. However long it takes. Whatever it looks like." She was quiet for a long time. "You've changed." "Have I?" The man I married would have thrown money at this problem. Would have bought a bigger house, hired help, tried to fix everything by acquiring it. What's this man doing? This man showed up at the hospital at 2 in the morning. This man spends his Tuesdays building tree houses. This man lets a 6-year-old boss him around at the hardware store. She smiled. This man is learning that presence is more valuable than presence. Took me long enough. Better late than never. We sat in silence. Her hand was inches from mine on the bench. I could feel the warmth of her. The kids asked why you don't live with us, she said. Lyra mentioned it. What did you say? That it's complicated. She laughed softly. Aiden's right. We use that word too much. What would you call it? She turned to face me fully. I call it scared. I am scared, Rowan. I'm scared that this is temporary. That you'll wake up one day and realize you miss your old life. That the novelty will wear off and you'll resent us for what you gave up. I gave up nothing. I gained everything. You say that now. I'll say it tomorrow. And next month. And next year. I took her hand. Actually took it. No hesitation. Alara, I'm not the man you divorced. That man was a stranger wearing my face. But I'm becoming someone I recognize again. Someone I actually like. And it's because of you. Because of them. Because you gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. You're earning it, she said quietly. Am I? Yes. You're here. You're present. You're trying. That's all I ever wanted. What do you want now? She didn't answer right away. Just looked at our hands, intertwined, familiar and foreign all at once. I want to believe this is real, she finally said. I want to believe that love can be rebuilt, that people can actually change, that we can be a family. We already are a family. You know what I mean? I did. She meant more. She meant complete. She meant together in every sense of the word. Then let me prove it, I said, however long it takes. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Small gesture, enormous trust. Okay, she whispered. But Rowan, if you break their hearts, if you break my heart again, there won't be another chance. I know. Do you? Do you really know what you're promising? I'm promising forever. I'm promising every Tuesday and Thursday and every day in between. I'm promising vegetables at dinner and bedtime stories and treehouse building and all of it. The boring parts, the hard parts, the parts where love is work and not just feeling. She lifted her head to look at me. In the moonlight, she was the same girl who'd spilled coffee on me 12 years ago. The same woman I'd fallen for and failed. Then prove it, she said, and I kissed her, gentle, asking permission with every second. She kissed me back, and it was coming home and starting over and everything in between. When we pulled apart, she was crying. I'm terrified, she admitted. Me too, but I want this. I want us. Then we'll figure it out. Together. Because love the second time around isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about showing up. It's about choosing every single day to be better than you were. It's about earning back trust one moment at a time. Have you ever had to rebuild something you destroyed? Ever learned that the hardest work isn't achieving success, but maintaining what matters? Because I was discovering that redemption wasn't a destination. It was a choice you made every morning when you woke up and decided to try again. 6 months after that kiss, I asked Alara to marry me. Not with a ring, not with a grand production, just with a question on a random Wednesday while we were doing dishes after dinner. Marry me, I said. She dropped the plate she was washing. It didn't break, landed in the soapy water with a splash. What? Marry me. Again. For real this time. Rowan, I know we said we'd take it slow. I know we're still figuring things out. But Alara, I've wasted enough time. I don't want to date you. I don't want to co-parent with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to be here for every moment. I want to make it official that I'm never leaving again. That's not romantic, she said, but she was smiling. You want romantic? Fine. I got down on one knee, right there in the kitchen, my hands still covered in dish soap. Alara Quinn, you're the best decision I ever made and the worst mistake I ever let happen. You gave me children I didn't deserve and a second chance I'm still earning. You taught me that love is a verb, not a feeling. That showing up matters more than showing off. You made me better, made me real. So marry me. Not because it's practical or because the kids want it or because it makes sense. Marry me because I love you. Because I choose you. Every day. For the rest of my life. She was crying. That's better. Is that a yes? That maybe we should ask the kids what they think. Smart woman. We told them that night at bedtime. Both of them piled into Aiden's room, waiting for their story. We have something to ask you both, Ilaris started. Are we getting a dog? Lyra asked immediately. Not exactly. A cat. No. A hamster? Can we get a hamster? Aiden rolled his eyes. Let them talk, Lyra. I took over. Your mom and I want to get married, but only if you guys are okay with it. Silence. They looked at each other. Some kind of twin communication happening. Would you live here? Aiden asked. If your mom says yes. Will we have to move? No. We'd stay right here. Would things be different? This from Lyra, suddenly serious. Alara fielded that one. Some things would change. Rowan would be here all the time. We'd be an official family. But the important stuff, our Tuesday and Thursday adventures, our beach days, bedtime stories, all of that stays the same. More silent communication. Finally, Aiden spoke. Can we vote on it? You want to vote on whether your parents get married? I asked.
Democracy is important. You taught me that. Fair point. Okay, Ilaris said. All in favor of Rowan and me getting married? For hands went up. Unanimous. Then I guess we're getting married, Ilaris said, looking at me with eyes full of tears and laughter and hope. We planned a small ceremony. Beach wedding. Just close friends and family. Nothing like our first wedding, and everything better because of it. The twins were excited. Lyra insisted on being the flower girl. Aiden wanted to walk his mother down the aisle. That's usually the father's job, I said. You'll already be up there, he pointed out. Someone has to bring her to you. Make sure she doesn't run away. Your mom's not running anywhere. Just making sure. The morning of the wedding, I woke up in my house. Our house now, the one I'd bought and we'd slowly merged our lives into. Alara and the kids had stayed at her friend's place the night before. Tradition. I stood at the bathroom mirror, tying my tie, and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked different, because I felt different. The old Rowan Hale would have been thinking about the guest list, the optics, how this looked to business associates. This Rowan Hale was just thinking about marrying the woman he loved, about making promises in front of his children, about building a life that mattered. My phone buzzed. Text from Alara. Having second thoughts? I called her immediately. Never, I said. You? Every few minutes. But then I remember you doing dishes with Lyra on your shoulders, singing off-key. And I think, okay, this man has changed. I'm still a work in progress. We all are. That's the point. I love you, Alara. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it. I know. See you at the beach. The ceremony was perfect because it was imperfect. Lyra dropped half her flower petals before we started. Aiden walked his mother down the aisle with such serious determination that people laughed. The wind kept blowing my notes away. But when I saw Alara walking toward me, wearing a simple white dress with flowers in her hair, the ocean behind her, our children beside her, nothing else mattered. We wrote our own vows. Mine, Alara, I promised to show up. Every day, in big ways and small ways. I promised to choose us over my ego. To remember that success is measured in moments, not money. To be the father our children deserve and the husband you needed me to be all along. I promise that when I inevitably mess up, and I will, I'll own it, fix it, and do better. I promise to never stop trying, to never stop growing, to never stop loving you. Hers, Rowan, I promise to let you prove yourself, to let you be present, to give you grace when you stumble and celebration when you succeed. I promise to remember that people can change, that love can be rebuilt, that second chances are sometimes the best chances. I promise to be patient with your growth and honest about my needs. I promise to choose hope over fear, trust over doubt, us over easy. The officiant pronounced us married. I kissed my wife. Our kids cheered. And just like that, we were a family. Official. Complete. The reception was on the beach. Simple food, good music, people we actually cared about. I danced with Alara, with Lyra, with both of them standing on my feet. Aiden found me later, tugged on my jacket. Yeah, buddy. You kept your promise. Which one? The pinky promise. You didn't leave. I crouched down to his level. I'll never leave. You're stuck with me now. Good. He hugged me. Quick. Fierce. Then ran off to play with other kids. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, after the kids were asleep in their new room, in our new blended life, Alara and I sat on the beach. We did it, she said. We did. Think we'll make it this time? I don't think. I know. How can you be sure? Because this time I understand what I have. This time I'm choosing it. Every day. On purpose. She leaned against me. I'm proud of you. Of who you've become. I'm proud of us. Of what we built from ruins. We sat there listening to the ocean, watching the stars, holding on to each other and the second chance we'd been given. Because some love stories don't end. They just pause. They wait. They survive the damage we do to them and come back stronger if we're brave enough to let them. Can love survive betrayal and rebuild into something better? Can people really change their fundamental nature? Can you make the same promise twice and mean it more the second time? We were living proof that the answer was yes, but only if you showed up for the work every single day, no matter what. A year into our marriage, my daughter drew a picture that changed everything. I was working from home, really working, not pretending to work while thinking about other things. My company was smaller now, leaner, focused. I let go of the parts that required me to be someone I didn't want to be anymore. Lyra burst into my office, waving a piece of paper. Look what I made. It was a family portrait, stick figures holding hands. 4 of them, names written carefully above each head in her still-learning handwriting. Mommy, Daddy, Aiden, Lyra. Daddy, such a simple word, but it represented everything I'd almost lost. Everything I'd fought to earn back. It's beautiful, sweetheart. It's at the hospital. They're doing a wall of family drawings. All the kids who come there get to put up pictures. The hospital, where this had all started, where I'd seen them for the first time. Can I come with you? When you bring it. Really? Her face lit up. Really? We went that Thursday, all 4 of us. The children's wing had expanded since I'd last been there. New equipment. More rooms. A garden area where kids could play. They did a lot of work here, Ilera commented. Yeah, I said, keeping my voice neutral. They did. What she didn't know. What nobody knew except the hospital administrator and me was that I'd funded most of it. Anonymously. No plaque. No press release. No tax write-off. Just money where it was needed. The old Rowan would have wanted credit. Would have used it for publicity. Would have made sure everyone knew what a generous philanthropist he was. This Rowan just wanted sick kids to have better care. We hung Lyra's drawing on the wall. She was so proud, pointing it out to every nurse who passed by. On our way out, we passed a room where mother sat beside a sleeping child. She looked exhausted, scared, alone. I thought about Ilera 5 years ago in a different hospital, holding newborn twins by herself because I hadn't been there. I thought about all the moments I'd missed, all the pain I'd caused, and I thought about redemption, about how it wasn't one big moment, but 1,000 small ones. Showing up, being present, choosing what mattered. You okay? Ilera asked, noticing I'd stopped. Yeah, just thinking. About how lucky I am. They let me back in. That they accepted me. That I get to do this. She squeezed my hand. You earned it. I'm still earning it. That's what makes it real. We drove home, the twins chattering in the back seat about what they wanted for dinner, about their upcoming science project, about whether hamsters made good pets. Normal stuff. Beautiful, boring, normal stuff. That night, after the kids were asleep, I found Ilera in her studio. She'd converted our garage into an art space, and she worked there most evenings, finally making the art she'd put aside for so long. What are you working on? I asked. She turned the canvas. It was a sunrise, not the one she'd painted years ago that I'd ignored. A new one, brighter, fuller, more alive. It's us, she said. New beginning. I looked at it. Really looked the way I should have looked at her art all along. It's incredible. You always say that now. Because I always mean it now. She put down her brush, turned to face me. Rowan, can I tell you something? Anything. I never thought we'd get here. When I left 6 years ago, I was so angry, so hurt. I thought that was it, that you'd killed whatever we had. Ilera, let me finish. I was wrong. You didn't kill it. You just forgot it. And these past 2 years, watching you remember, watching you fight to become someone worth choosing, it's been the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Better than any art. Better than any dream I had when we were young. I should have been this person all along. Maybe. But maybe you needed to lose everything to understand what mattered. Maybe I needed to be strong on my own before I could be strong with you. Maybe it all happened exactly how it was supposed to. You really believe that? Ido. Because the man I'm married to now is better than the man I married the first time. He's humble. He's present. He knows that love is a choice, not a feeling. And he makes that choice every single day. I kissed her. Slow, deep, full of gratitude and promise. I'm going to keep choosing you, I said. Every day. For the rest of my life. I know. That's why this works. We stood there in her studio, surrounded by her art, and I realized this was what success actually looked like. Not buildings with my name on them. Not money in the bank. Not magazine covers or business deals. This. Love. Family. Presence. Purpose. The next morning, I got a call from the hospital administrator. Mr. Hale, I know you wanted to remain anonymous, but we're dedicating the new wing next month. We'd love for you and your family to attend. No placa, insista. No credit. That was the deal. There won't be. But there is something you should know. Mrs. Quinn, Elara, she's been volunteering there, teaching art classes to the kids. And yesterday, she asked if we could name the wing after someone. My heart stopped. Ooh, she suggested the light wing. For hope and healing. She said light always finds a way back, even in the darkest places. She has no idea you're behind the funding. But somehow, in naming it, she honored what you did anyway. I couldn't speak. Will you come to the dedication? He asked. I'll be there. I hung up and just sat there, thinking about the woman I'd married twice. The woman who'd taken our broken pieces and built something beautiful. The woman who chose forgiveness over bitterness, hope over fear, love over logic. Aiden found me sitting there. You okay, Dad? Yeah, buddy. More than okay. You look like you're gonna cry. Happy tears. They're a thing. He climbed into my lap, getting too big for it, but still small enough to fit. Mom says you used to be different. Before. I was. Not in a good way. What changed? I remembered what mattered. Us. You. Your mom. Your sister. And understanding that love isn't something you own. It's something you do. He thought about this with his serious face. Like homework. I laughed. Kind of. Except homework ends. Love doesn't. You keep showing up for it. Keep working at it. Keep choosing it. That sounds hard. The best things usually are. He hugged me tight. I'm glad you chose us. Me too, buddy. Me too. Because at the end of the day, that's what redemption is. Not erasing your mistakes. Not pretending you didn't fail. But choosing every single day to be better than you were. To show up. To do the work. To earn back what you lost and protect what you have. Can you rebuild trust after breaking it completely? Can you become a better version of yourself even after destroying everything? Can love really survive betrayal and come back stronger? We were living proof that yes, but only if you understood that redemption wasn't a moment. It was a lifestyle. The dedication ceremony happened on a Tuesday. Fitting somehow. Tuesday had always been our day. Mine and Aiden's. The day we built things together. Now we were standing in front of something I'd built for all of them. Not with lumber and nails, but with money I'd finally learned to use for something that mattered. The light wing. Alara's name for it, even though she didn't know I'd funded it. We stood in the crowd, me, Alara, Aiden, and Lyra. The hospital director gave a speech about community support, about anonymous donors, about how healing required both medicine and hope. Alara leaned close. This is beautiful. Whoever paid for this must have a good heart. I said nothing, just squeezed her hand. They unveiled the sign. Simple, elegant. The light wing, where hope shines bright. Lyra gasped. Mommy, that's what you called it. The light thing. It is, isn't it? Alara looked confused. What a strange coincidence. Aiden looked at me. That analytical stare. He knew. Somehow that kid always knew. He didn't say anything. Just smiled and looked back at the sign. After the ceremony, families toured the new wing. Kids played in the garden. Parents cried tears of relief at the expanded facilities. And I stood back, watching it all, understanding finally what wealth was actually for. Not to prove you'd made it, but to make things better for people who needed it. Rowan Hale. I turned. A woman approached, maybe mid-30s, holding a little boy's hand. I don't know if you remember me. I was here a year ago. You walked past my son's room. He was recovering from surgery. I didn't remember, but I nodded anyway. I just wanted to thank you for this. She gestured at the wing. The administrator told me you funded most of it, that you didn't want credit. Alara's head snapped toward me. What? The care my son received here, the equipment, the staff, the garden where he could play while recovering, it saved him. It saved us. So thank you. She walked away before I could respond. Alara was staring at me. You funded this? Some of it. How much is some? Most of it. Rowan, I wanted to do something that mattered. And I didn't want credit. I just wanted kids to have better care. Her eyes filled with tears. Why didn't you tell me? Because the old me would have done it for recognition. I needed to know I could do it just because it was right. She looked at the wing, at the sign with her words on it, at the families moving through the space with hope in their eyes. Do you know what you've done? She whispered. Built. A building. No, you've become the man I always knew you could be. The man I saw glimpses of in that coffee shop 12 years ago. The man who cared more about people than profit. The man who understood that legacy isn't what you leave behind in steel and glass. It's what you leave behind in hearts. Aiden tugged on my sleeve. Dad, that lady said you paid for this place. I helped you. That's a lot of money. It is. But you didn't tell anyone. Didn't need to. He processed this with his usual seriousness. Then, that's what heroes do. They help without needing everyone to know. I'm not a hero, buddy. Yeah, you are. You're mine. And just like that, my 6-year-old son destroyed me in the best possible way. Lyra was chasing butterflies in the garden, completely oblivious to the heavy emotion happening around her. Good. She should stay innocent like that as long as possible. Later, driving home, Alara kept glancing at me. What? I finally asked. I'm just trying to figure out when you became this person. Gradually, one Tuesday at a time. She laughed. That's the truest thing you've ever said. It's because of you. All of you. You showed me what actually matters. We just existed. You did the work. You gave me a reason to. We pulled into our driveway. Our house. Our life. Our second chance made real. The twins ran inside, already arguing about whose turn it was to pick the movie for family night. Normal. Beautiful. Perfect. Alara and I lingered in the car. Can I tell you something? She asked. Always. When I left 6 years ago, I was so broken. I thought I'd never trust anyone again. Never love anyone again. I thought you destroyed my ability to believe in happy endings. Alara. But you didn't. You just destroyed my belief in perfect fairy tales. And that's actually better. Because what we have now, this messy, rebuilt, earned every day kind of love, it's stronger than anything we had before. It's real. It's tested. It's proven. I don't deserve you. No, you earn me. There's a difference. She kissed me. Soft. Sure. Full of tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Come on, she said. We've got a movie to watch. And I think Aiden's turn to pick means we're watching something with explosions. Sounds perfect. Because it was. Not because it was glamorous or impressive or magazine-worthy, but because it was ours. That night, after the movie, after the kids were asleep, after Alara had gone to her studio to paint, I stood in the doorway of Aiden and Lyra's room, watching them sleep. These two humans who existed because of me, who I'd almost never known, who'd given me a reason to become someone worth knowing. Aiden stirred, opened his eyes. Can't sleep? I whispered. Just thinking. About what? About how different things could have been. If you hadn't come to the hospital that day. If you'd stayed away. You think about that? Sometimes. Mom says everything happens for a reason. But I think people make choices. And you made good choices. After the bad ones. Wise beyond his years, this kid. I'm going to keep making good choices, I promised. For you guys. For your mom. For the rest of my life. I know. He yawned. That's why I'm not worried anymore. You were worried? At first. That you'd leave. That you'd choose work again. But you didn't. You chose us. Every time. Every time I confirmed. He rolled over, already drifting back to sleep. Love you, Dad. Love you too, buddy. I closed their door softly and found Alara standing in the hallway. She'd heard. He's not wrong, she said. You did choose us. Every single time it mattered. It was the easiest choice I've ever made. Liar. It was probably the hardest. Giving up your empire, your lifestyle, everything you'd built. I didn't give up anything. I traded empty for full, hollow for whole. I'd make that trade 1,000,000 times over. She took my hand, led me to the living room. We sat on the couch, her head on my shoulder, comfortable silence between us. Do you ever miss it? She asked. The old life. Sometimes I miss feeling important, but then I realize I confuse being busy with being important, being recognized with being valued, having things with having purpose. And now I know that importance is reading bedtime stories. Value is showing up for art classes. Purpose is building tree houses and funding hospital wings and choosing every single day to be present for the people I love. That's beautiful. That's real. We sat there, watching the ocean through our windows, listening to the house settle around us, feeling the weight of our second chance. Rowan, yeah, thank you. For what? For coming back. For fighting. For becoming someone who understood that love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up. For teaching our children that people can change. That mistakes don't define you. What you do after them does. Thank you for letting me. For giving me a chance I didn't deserve. For believing I could be better. You didn't just become better. You became whole. And she was right. I had. Not because I found success or wealth or recognition, but because I found what actually mattered. Family, love, presence, purpose. The richest hearts aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones that choose forgiveness over revenge, hope over bitterness, love over pride. They're the ones that understand second chances aren't given. They're earned day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment. I'd lost everything 6 years ago. My wife, my unborn children, my sense of self. And in losing it all, I'd found something better. A second chance, a real life, a love worth fighting for. Some stories end with happily ever after. Ours ends with happily every day working at it. And that's better, because fairy tales are fiction. But this messy, beautiful rebuilt life, this is real. So here's what I learned. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Money can't buy back time. Pride will cost you everything that matters. And love, real love, isn't something that just happens. It's something you choose. Every single day. In 1,000 small ways. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I chose wrong once. Chose my ego over my wife. Chose ambition over love. Chose to be recognized over being present. And it cost me 6 years with my children. 6 years of firsts I'll never get back. But I chose right after that. Chose presence over prestige. Chose family over fortune. Chose to be better than I was. And that choice, that daily, difficult, determined choice, made all the difference. Have you ever gotten a second chance you didn't deserve? Have you ever learned that the hardest journey isn't to the top, but back to what matters? Because standing in my living room, holding the woman I'd lost and found again, knowing my children were asleep down the hall, safe and loved and whole, I understood finally what wealth actually meant. It meant this, just this, and it was everything. Thank you for watching this story of quiet justice, lost love, and hard-earned redemption. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances, if you've ever had to choose between what looks successful and what actually matters, drop a comment below. Share your thoughts. Your story might inspire someone else who's struggling to find their way back to what's real. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We have more stories coming that will challenge you, move you, and remind you that it's never too late to choose differently. Stories about love, loss, redemption, and the courage it takes to become someone worth choosing. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's build a community of people who believe that love can be rebuilt, people can change, and second chances, when earned, are the most beautiful gift life can give. See you in the next story. Until then, choose wisely. Choose love. Choose to show up. Because in the end, that's all that really matters.